This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I are back to talk about the Heisman Trophy, but not to give our rankings, but instead talk about the winner, Travis Hunter. Did he deserve it? Did Ashton Jeanty really get snubbed? Or is this just a year that we'll never forget when it comes to the Heisman Trophy? Then we're also going to break down every single college football playoff game and give our take on if Ohio State can run the table. All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to an episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and we are here. Christmas is very, very close. It's around the corner. It is an exciting time. And I thought, Josh, to start the show, because, you know, we talk about sports all the time. Well, let's just mix it up a little bit. What is a go-to tradition for you during Christmas time? What is a go-to tradition for you going, maybe with family, maybe in your community? What is one thing that you look forward to doing every year, or that is just done every year and you're just kind of like, you know what? It's become part of the life. What is that for you? And also, how's the week been?
Yeah, week's been good. I've picked up a couple overtime shifts at work, trying to throw down more money towards saving up for a house. And I've been looking at houses and just finding a lot of disappointments out here, honestly. Welcome to the 2024 housing market. If you aren't too familiar with it or haven't been shopping too much, it's depressing. But much less depressing, though, is Christmas, and that, as of today, is 8 days away. Our family more so now doesn't have a whole lot of traditions or things that we do every year. I would say, like, outside of our family, like our church always does a Christmas concert collectively. That always is a pretty solid production. I didn't get to go to it this year because it was a Sunday night that I worked, unfortunately. But as kids, our family always would follow the Advent calendar. We had a book that we'd go through that basically broke down the Christmas story into like one. We'd go through one page and one part or aspect of the story a year, just leading up to the birth of Jesus. So that's something that I'd like to do someday with my future family. But that's probably the one that sticks out the most, or the one that is freshest in my mind. What was it like in the Bowden household?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of fun. You know, similar to you, I always remember, you know, going to my churches. We always had Christmas Eve service. We'd always go to Christmas Eve service. And now I know it's changed since then. But for me, it was my mom reading. She always had like a cool book. It was like a children's book, you know, kindergarten teacher, but it told the Christmas story, and we would read that. And then my dad would always read the Bible story before we opened gifts, right? You know, as an 8-year-old, you know this, Josh, you're just like, I just want to open the gifts, you know, and you have to sit there and you wait. And of course, I think my dad dragged it out a few times, like just would, you know, add extra like the verses that were not necessarily part of that story, but he added them in there. But no, and then also it was more when I was older, was like we always have breakfast on Christmas together. Like that was just really fun and awesome. And, you know, I that's one thing I do miss. I'll be honest, Josh, is living over here overseas is, you know, sometimes missing those little things that you don't realize. You know, I was thinking about it the other day. I haven't been home for Christmas since 2019. So for me, like, I'm missing those little things that we don't quite get to do, you know, with my family, but obviously, you know, being able to go to Rebecca's family on Christmas and having those kind of traditions in the Hungarian sense is also cool for me. And so, that's what I would say for me, for sure.
Anything unique that Hungary does for Christmas that the States just doesn't do?
Well, they technically celebrate the day after Christmas as well. So it's like the 24th is Eve, obviously 25th, and then 26th you also celebrate. Which was wild when I first moved here. I was like, what is this?
Like, wait, it's the second day of Christmas? The 12 days of Christmas is real over here?
It's pretty cool, actually. So that's one thing. A lot of duck. We eat a lot. Like, you know, I don't know about you. Growing up, I barely ate duck until I moved here.
We've always been a ham family.
Yeah.
Sometimes turkey,
ham,
but mostly ham.
Nor turkey or ham. Like we just had like, I think whatever was in the fridge, right? Type thing. We weren't really on that side of it, but so that's the main thing. I guess there's some similarities for sure, but I think just generally the cultural differences here and there, little things are like that for sure.
Gotcha. Do they have a Santa Claus?
They do actually have. Oh, that's another thing. They have Santa Claus Day, which is the 6th of December, when Santa Claus comes and or Saint Nicholas brings Mikolosh, actually. I remember how it's exactly pronounced, but basically comes in, brings little gifts for the kids in their shoes. It's a whole story. We'd spend a whole episode on that. But yeah, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah. Well, good stuff, man. Yeah, hopefully everybody else has
Hmm.
some exciting
Yeah, let it
plans coming
down.
up for
Let us know
Christmas.
in the comments. What's some of
Yeah,
your
like to hear some other
traditions?
traditions,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe from people out of state if there's anything unique
Yeah,
that your country
absolutely.
does.
Ohio is pretty generally basic, so we're not really unique.
Right. Yeah. Um, so we are a sports podcast though, Ben,
Yes,
and
we
most
are.
recently over
We're
the
not a
weekend.
lifestyle. We're not a lifestyle podcast. Dear Lord, help us all if that would happen.
Oh boy, yeah. But over the weekend we had
Yep.
one of the last, I guess, traditions that college football still holds, Army Navy game,
Oh, great tradition. Love it.
which it was set up this year since both of them are in the same conference that they could have faced each other in the conference championship game and
Yeah.
then played their regular season
Which
matchup
would
the
have been
week after that,
weird.
which would
Which would have
have
been
been,
so
yeah,
weird.
didn't shake up that way, but Navy actually came in and won it.
It was
They always come in
surprising,
with
man.
very nice uniforms, but yeah,
Dude, the
Navy
uniforms are sick, bro.
somewhat upset.
Why
But
do they have
yeah,
the best uniforms in all of football? Like, why do they? Why is the teams that cannot really like none of the players can make money, all these different things, and yet they have the nicest uniforms out of anyone in the college football? I do
yeah.
not
Like
understand.
Oregon is always bringing something fresh, it seems like every week, but Navy like puts
They're
all of
just
their energy into
awesome,
these
dude.
uniforms at the end of the
They're
year.
just
Yeah,
sick.
they are good. But even bigger than that was the Heisman Trophy ceremony and
Yeah,
presentation later that evening. And to nobody's surprise, if you've been paying attention to the betting markets and the way that everybody's been
yeah,
talking, Travis Hunter comes away with the Heisman Trophy. That was
yeah.
who Ben and I also predicted on the show. I know that it created some mixed feelings from
It was closer than
some
people thought,
fans.
though. It was a
Yeah,
little closer
it
than
was
people
like
thought it was going
decided
to
by
be.
200 points. 200
Yeah,
points. I think Hunter had 2,200 and Jeanty
yeah. It
finished
was
with over
2000. Yeah,
2,000. Yeah. But still, the Jeanty crowd is still just preaching overhyped and just snaps aren't that big of a deal
yeah.
as to why Travis Hunter didn't win it. And I mean, I think it definitely was a close race. I think almost any given year, Ashton Jeanty is
Oh, he
walking
wipes
away with
away with
this
it.
thing.
Wipes it. Yeah,
But you also got to think like back in the honestly the first college football playoff season when Melvin Gordon had basically all the same numbers. Marcus Mariota walks away with it that year,
yeah,
who didn't even have as crazy of a season as Travis Hunter did. But
yeah.
just to anybody that still thinks that Travis Hunter won this award because of snaps and hype, uh, Pro Football Focus's third highest graded coverage corner, and also their fifth highest graded wide receiver as far as offensive grade goes. And if you're still like, well, PFF is just a bunch of like 20-year-old like interns that don't know anything, they're not football minded
I
guys.
know a guy
Well,
here in Hungary that works for PFF. So
really,
yeah,
hey, shout out Hungry for PFF. But these are the hard stats, Ben. 14
yeah,
touchdown catches, most in the Power Four. 1,152 receiving yards, which is third in the Power Four. Four interceptions, fourth among the Power Four. Uh, as far as like passer rating allowed, when you throw towards Travis Hunter, just 42, which was
yeah,
ninth among the Power Four corners. So this guy was a solid option, not
yeah,
just good on one side and average on the other, but he was, a superstar as
yeah,
an offensive and defensive player. And people are saying, well, Charles Woodson, did the same thing, but he basically just had 12 catches his whole career. I think
yeah,
Chris Gamble was another guy that played both ways, but only had 40 catches his whole career. This
yeah,
guy is playing
yeah.
nonstop on both sides. And to not even have to take a break, like, I don't know how many of you guys have played football, but I know you
It's
look forward
tiring,
to,
dude. It's so tiring.
which it is. Like, we talk about defenses needing to get off the field so they can rest and get worn down as the game goes on later, but this guy doesn't lose any energy whatsoever.
Yeah,
So that's what I've been saying. I've been on the Travis Hunter
yeah.
train for a while, and it hasn't been to the detriment of Jeanty because that guy's also an awesome player too. It wasn't like it was a not even close kind of race, but at the end of the day, I thought Hunter's season was more impressive. Do you have anything you
No,
wanted to shout out, Ben, about that?
no. I agree with you. Like, look, if it was any other year, I feel bad for Janty because this would be so much to Boise State. I think you agree with me on that. Like, if he would have won yeah, Boise State, yeah, they're going to move the big Pac-12. It's not that it would put them on the map, but it would give them something to hold on to, right? Like,
If they were in a Power Four, I
and
think that might have been enough to sway it.
yeah, like they're Fiestable. Like, if Like, remember that victory? Like, it would have been like that level where it's like you create something that will last forever. And I agree with you. If they were in the Power Four, I really don't think Travis Hunter wins this because if you look at the numbers, what Janty's done, we can say everything about Hunter and the fact that, yeah, he goes both ways. He doesn't take a break. Janty's not like he's carrying it like 10 times and then that's it. This guy was
Right.
taking loads and taking hit. If you watch the way he
He
runs,
was the
he
Boise State
doesn't,
offense.
he's not like, even Melvin Gordon, when he had a good year, he would run over player, but he would try to avoid. Dude, I have not seen Janty try to avoid any guy. Like he just says, I'll take the bump, like whatever happens, you know? Um, going back to Travis Hunter, I think, first off, I'm really frustrated that Nash from San Jose State didn't win the freaking Biletnikoff. Not because I think he's a better ball player. It's like, dude, he won the Triple Crown in the receivers. Like, I don't care if he's not Power Four or not, dude. That's hard to do in any college football level. That's just another thing. But no, man, it's just hard, man, because you hate to see this for Janty because he's not coming back. If he wants to have a good career in the NFL, this as well as I do, he can't come back. Like if he comes back, he's going to possibly hurt himself or whatever. I do want people to stop. Like there are a lot of people on the Travis Hunter side that are saying like Janty's overrated. I hope you don't say that because if you watch Janty play, he did 180 yards against Oregon. By the way, that same Oregon team that beat Ohio State. Right.
I
Like,
think he actually got over 200 in that,
yeah.
didn't he?
So I think it
Three
was like
touchdowns.
190. It was really close to 200. So I guess my thing with this is, Josh, is that both sides just need to stop bashing the other guy. Like they're both great players and they're both amazing at what they do. The fact is that when you play two ways, you have that little extra notch over a guy who's playing one way. Now I will agree with some people that say, playing running back is more of a toll on the body, which I do agree
Mhm.
with. So I think that's where a lot of that fight comes is like, wait a minute, this dude's been taking hits every single play. Whereas Travis Hunter, if he doesn't get a catch, he might not even be touched. So I understand that. And I understand that, you're not always running as a cornerback. Sometimes maybe it's a run play or whatever. But at the end of the day, I think either way, I'll put it this way. I would not have been mad either way, whatever would have happened. Honestly, I would have been fine with either way, to be honest.
Yeah. To like the Power Four point too. I was chatting with a buddy about just the schedule and stuff, and Ginty does have the game against Oregon, which yeah, he did perform against the number one team in the country, but I think had he been going against like a Big Ten schedule, it would have been different. There's just a
Yeah, it could
size
have been.
difference,
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
speed difference, a
yeah.
talent difference when you are consistently playing Big Ten teams, even if it's not just Oregon.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah.
But even like strength of schedule stuff, like the Big 12 was probably the weakest of the Power Four conferences. Colorado finished out with a
Yeah,
71st ranked strength of schedule. Boise State comes out ranked 79th, and that even was with Oregon on their plate.
yeah.
So it's just like
But
still
also,
like that's splitting hairs, like as far as like
yeah.
how hard of a schedule each played.
It does
But
frustrate me though that like Travis Hunter didn't even lead his team to the playoff, and we're giving like that always will sting a little bit to me. It's like, isn't it
that was like
supposed to
the
give the
case with
best
Jaden Daniels
player?
last year too,
Yeah,
and
it's
why I
like,
was holding out. But then it was just like, okay, he's far and away better than any of the other
yeah. I
quarterbacks that are
just,
performing right now.
yeah,
I got to give it to Jaden.
yeah.
But yeah, that's the other side of the coin is I know we've been frustrated before when the Heisman's been just the best player on the best team or the quarterback on the best
But you
team. We're
gotta at
like, look at
least
how
like
this
do
other guy's
something
performed.
postseason wise. Like, at
Even
least
now
have
that we got
something.
12 playoff teams,
And you don't
like
even
you
make
almost
it.
should be in
Oh,
the playoff.
yeah,
Yeah. Now that there's 12, like that LSU team, I think would have been in the 12 team
yeah, yeah,
playoff
yeah.
last year. Jaden Daniels quarterback, but yeah, it is what it is. I do think both sides play great. I just lean Travis more, but I also wouldn't have fought it too much if Genty had won it.
No, no, and then yeah, yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's just one of those. This is one of those things where I think if you're and I think just Ashton Jeanty like is Boise State, and like he wears
Yeah.
Boise State
He
gear.
loves that
He's
place.
not, but he's
Yeah,
not. He doesn't flash. Like if you notice all the other guys, they're wearing these, what, $20,000 suits and
probably.
chains and watches, and you look at Jeanty, he's like he's in a tracksuit. Like the dude's like I'm here because of my school and what my school's done. And like, dude, if you love Boise, Idaho, all the power to you. Just we'll
Yeah.
just stick with that.
Remind me, not that like any of the other guys were raised poorly, but I think Genty's dad was either in the military or a coach himself.
I think so. I think Travis Hunter also dad something with his dad. I can't remember exactly what the whole story was, but yeah, but maybe that is too. Like, I think, if you're from like West Liberty, where I'm from, we had two guys go to Purdue, and like, that was huge for our community. But you tend to want to be in a smaller community. You don't want to be a flashy guy. And I think Janty's not a guy that really cares about the flash. He just cares about football and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm just checking right now, Genty's recruitment and stuff like that. He was a four-star kid coming out. He had offers from Cal, Tulane, Kansas, uh, the Navy offered him, and Army and Air Force. So yeah, maybe it was like
Dude,
his dad being in the military.
imagine him at like Air Force, like being the
Yeah.
fullback and just running the triple option and just dominating, bro.
Dartmouth offered him, so he must be a really smart dude. Tulsa's offered him, but yeah, not really any Power
Jeez.
Five offers outside of Cal and
Imagine
Kansas.
Bryson Daly from Army and Janty in the backfield together. Holy
Running
cow.
triple option behind the Joe Moore Award offensive line.
Dude. Whoa.
Yeah. But
And
yeah,
also, can we
Genty
also
loves
talk about the
Boise.
fact that Army's offensive line, we forget that Army's offensive line only weighs like 280 pounds each. Like, they're not big dudes, and they're winning
Yeah, well,
that
they can't be.
award.
They got to be
No,
able
they
to pass
can't.
all like the Army physical
Yeah.
stuff.
So like, it's wild to me that like, these offensive lines are so physical, they're so good. And like, the biggest guy, I think it's, Andre Villanueva was the biggest guy ever. He was like 6'10", right? And played for them, but he played tight end, right? Because he had to be fit. Like, you'll never see a dude over 320. The highest I've ever seen at Army was like 295, but he was as fit as can be. Um, yeah, it's so crazy though.
Yeah. Well, that was pretty much everything I had to
Yep.
say about
Same.
the Heisman. We do have playoff games coming up, Ben.
Yes,
We've got
sir.
the first round home playoff games, first time it's ever happened, happening Friday night, starting with Notre
In
Dame
some
and
of the
Indiana.
best in some of the best locations of all time, which is just cool.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we're getting to have playoff games in Columbus, Ohio,
Beaver
South Bend,
Stadium.
Indiana, Beaver Stadium out in
It's just like some of the best
Pennsylvania.
places of all time.
Yeah, Texas Stadium out in Austin. But yeah, let's go ahead and work through these chronologically. We have, like I said, Indiana at Notre Dame, and I think we're going to learn quite a bit from this one.
Yes, I agree.
This is, it might be the game I'm the most unsure of
This
because
is Notre Dame's
Indiana,
biggest test. I think this is Notre Dame's biggest test all year, personally.
yeah, like Indiana's had the test with Ohio State, but then like the next best team they played was probably Michigan, and that's a huge drop off in
Yeah.
like just overall talent. So we've seen Indiana do well against a lot of below average teams, but then when they played one of the best in the country, they lost by double digits.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame's had a handful of tests. They have gone through Army and Navy. They've faced Louisville and they beat
I'll
them.
still hold that
They
Northern
just
Illinois
got
loss though, dude.
yeah, they beat
3 and
Texas
9,
A&M at the
dude.
beginning of the year, but yeah, the Northern Illinois loss is the one big black eye on them. But yeah, as it stands right now, uh, we've got that game with Notre Dame as a 7-point favorite right now at home.
Yeah.
I think things that I'm going to be looking for are Notre Dame's been largely carried by their run game and their defense.
Yeah.
Indiana's been largely carried by Rourke at quarterback,
Hmm.
but we really haven't gotten to see the defense tested all that much
Yeah.
outside of the Ohio State game where Ohio State put up over 30 on them.
Yeah.
Notre Dame can put up a lot of points, even though they don't have like the high flying, like passing offense. They put up over 40 on, I think, both Army and Navy. They put up, I think, over 30 on Louisville. They had 23 on Texas A&M, but they're a strong defense. Um, but yeah, I think it's going to come down to how Notre Dame's defense holds up against Rourke and how Indiana's front seven holds up against that Notre Dame run attack. Those are the matchups I'm going to be paying attention to. What are you most curious about in this game?
I'm curious to see if Indiana can get anything going offensively. Because we saw what happened when they faced Ohio State. It was just like they literally couldn't do anything. When you get pressure on Rourke and he gets off rhythm, right? We heard Joel Klatt say that in the game. When Rourke gets off rhythm, he struggles immensely. And I just think if you're Notre Dame, you look at that Ohio State film and say, let's send everybody, right? Send 7 guys. Say you beat us, and we'll start blitzing less. But so I'm gonna look at that. The how's the offensive line play for India? How's the offense in general play? And then the second thing I'm looking at is like, can Notre Dame avoid a Northern Illinois game? And what I mean by that is, can they avoid making the mental mistakes, making the playing down their opponent? Because I think it's going to be very easy for Notre Dame to go, look, we've always been kings of Indiana. We've always been the top of Indiana. And no one in the state of Indiana has been able to really compete with us. And we're still going to be the dominant team, right? And I think that's where they got to be careful, because Indiana is no joke when they're going. But that's the problem with Indiana, is when they're not going, they're not very, very consistent. So that's what I'm looking for. Will there be a Northern Illinois effect, and can Indiana do anything offensively? Will be the big test.
I agree. Notre Dame right now has second best rush D in the country in terms of yards per carry allowed. They also have the third best scoring defense in terms of points allowed per game. Um, I think that's just going to be enough to put them over. And I mean, the offense will do what it does. So going ahead, actually, excuse me, rush offense is what I meant, not rush defense. Notre Dame's rush offense is second in the country in yards per carry. And then the scoring defense is third in the country.
Yeah.
I think those two things are just going to be too overwhelming. I know Indiana statistically stacks up nice, but I think it's inflated by bad opponents, right?
No, they have the Tennessee effect and the Ole Miss effect. That's what they have. I'm going to go. My score prediction is pretty straightforward. I think Notre Dame's going to win this. Now, I'll say this with the caveat: I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana wins. Like, I'm not going to say like it's not. It wouldn't be surprising for me technically, because I think Notre Dame has a very bad side. But I'm going to say Notre Dame wins this. I'm going to go 24 to. I'm going to go 24-21 Notre Dame, and a tight one. But I do think Notre Dame is going to kind of pull out at the end by running the ball.
The other thing you got to keep in mind is the weather element here, because we will be in South Bend on Friday. The forecast is 33 degrees and 50% chance of snow, and I think that's going to play right into the style that Notre Dame wants to play too. So I'm leaning lower scoring here, but Notre Dame, I'm going to give them 24. Indiana, 17. Right there, just slightly covering for Notre Dame.
Look
but
at
it's
you.
going to be a good
so
first
nice.
round for this playoffs. I'm so nice, Indiana. I'm saying they're going to score 17 on this Notre Dame defense. But yeah, that's going to be kicking off Friday. Then we move into Saturday, and Saturday's slate starts off with, let me check here, SMU at Penn State, a noon game at Beaver Stadium.
I hate that Penn State has such the.
You
this
hate
bothers
what?
me. I hate that Penn State has this like easy. That just drives me nuts.
The easy path.
It's so annoying. I talked about it last week, but it just annoys me.
Yeah. Penn State's one
they
of those
beat
teams
no one
that I
good.
think
They beat no one good.
the hardest team that they
At
played all
all.
year, Oregon and Ohio State. They lose
They
to both of them.
lost.
They had a couple close calls with Minnesota and Bowling Green. But yeah, I think SMU is kind of in the same boat too, though. They best teams that they've played, Clemson and BYU, they ended up losing
It's
to.
it's like the misfit round for them.
In a way, yeah, they're both 11-2 right now. They both reached their conference championship games and lost. I think there's some similarities there. But yeah, I don't have any like really any reason for my prediction. I've benched high on Penn State most this season, just believing basically blindly that any team that they're better than, they're gonna beat, just like it always has been. And I believe they are overall a better team than SMU. I would feel a lot more confident if they had some better skill on the outside for Drew Aller to throw to. But I'm leaning Penn State in this one. Is there anything you notice? I know you've been high on SMU most of the season, Ben, and I think you've even had them higher ranked than Penn State in the power rank in some weeks.
I have. Um, this is tough because
This probably is the toughest game for me to pick, honestly.
I'm just really like I'm still mad about how Ohio State is not ahead of Penn State. How like even Indiana is not like I don't know. It's weird with Penn State. I don't think it's their head coach can't win a big game at all. Never has. It's even worse than Ryan Day. Just can't. He can't. I don't trust it. He tries to put a lot of ego on him. He tries to be this like tough guy sometimes. He just Franklin drives me nuts. Um, I have a feeling that people have been doubting SMU a lot and telling how Bama needs to be in there, which to be honest, if Bama was in here, I'd probably pick Penn State to be honest with you. But with SMU and the way they play and just kind of the way they can attack you, I think I'm going to pull an SMU upset here. I'm going to go SMU 28, Penn State 24.
Hmm. Yeah, I think this is basically just going to be like a Penn State defense versus SMU offense game. Both of them are pretty solid on both sides of the ball, but obviously SMU has the higher ceiling on offense. Penn State has the higher ceiling on defense. Just with that, still like defense wins championships kind of mindset I got for Notre Dame. It's going to be a cold one outside at Beaver Stadium as well for Penn State. I'm going to lean them a little in this one. Still not anything super crazy scoring though. Uh, Give me Penn State 27, SMU 23. I think that 8.5 points again, Penn State's a little too much.
Yeah, I mean, I could go either way, to be honest with you. To be honest with you, I just went the way I did because I felt it, and I've been
Yeah.
high on them. So
Now, I'm going more, I think, on feel for this next one. This is Texas and Clemson.
yeah,
It's at Austin. Clemson has basically lost to all the teams this year that were worth a darn, like that had a pulse.
yeah.
Georgia beats them week one. They lose to Louisville. They lose to South Carolina. But then they get that game-winning field goal against SMU at the end of the year, and I guess they got a win that they can be proud of. And so, since they're conference champ, here they are in the playoff. But the other thing, Ben, is Texas has been frustrating me a lot
Because
lately.
you've been really on them, and now all of a
They've
sudden
made me
now,
look very foolish. I've been believing in Texas more than I guess reason they've given me. They've now that they've beaten Texas A&M, they got a win that I guess they can say is ranked, quote unquote, depending on how you define ranked win. But the offense has scored more than 20 points 3 of the last 4 weeks. There's rumors that Quinn Ewers is going to return to school or return to college, but transfer out. And if there's
Ohio
any
State,
truth to
please.
those, maybe. If there's any truth to those, though, like the whole reason I bring that up is if he's like halfway in, halfway out, like we've seen that affect some coaches at least, like not being
Yeah,
all in. How much is Arch Manning going to be involved in this game? How disciplined is Texas going to be? Because they've a lot of the Georgia game was them not being able to get out of their own way. That
yeah,
SEC championship games, playoff or not playoff, penalty after penalty after penalty. And then you look over on the Clemson side, like I just said, I don't really have much of a reason to believe in Clemson either. Like these are on paper two top 10 talent rosters uh,
they're being miscoached,
that
is
have
what it is.
yeah, you could call it being miscoached. You could say it's like players that are just not getting out of their own way.
Yeah,
I don't know. They got Texas as like an 11.5 point favorite for this game, but mostly out of feel. Like, is it possible that Texas just finally pulls their head out of their butt and plays like they should against Clemson? Sure. Is it also possible that Clemson continues quote unquote momentum
yeah,
after SMU and realizes their talent and beats Texas on the road? Sure. I don't I don't really have any reason to go with this. That's just more like a feel thing. I'm leaning Clemson because at least I've seen Dabo win these big games. I've seen Texas and Sark lose a playoff game last year, all the big games this year against Georgia in the regular season on their own home field,
yeah,
and then that SEC championship game in Mercedes-Benz, I think they played it at for the second one. They lost that one too, and those are both games they should have won. Uh, so I'm going ahead with Clemson in this one, mostly because I know Dabo's been capable of winning big games, and even though he hasn't done it this regular season, maybe there's a chance he's got one in him.
yeah.
So I'm leaning Clemson and upset here. a Clemson 31-26 victory.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think this is also why, Josh, we've talked about this before, is why I think reseeding is very important for the future. I know not this year, but in the future. Like I think that if let's say Clemson or SMU wins, the first or second seed should get to be able to play those teams. Personally, I think just being a reseed and the lowest plays the high, like that's just I feel like
Hmm.
how any bracket should go. But with this, I'm in the same boat with you. Like I don't want to pick this game because it's just like two teams that
Yeah.
are choke hazards. Like literally, like you got to do the Heimlich maneuver on these teams to even get them to show up in a big game. Um, I think first off, I think Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, maybe Georgia, but maybe Florida. I think Oregon and Ohio State could wash them away if they played in a game. But I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the same thing you are, Josh. And it's very rare that we go together on like on an upset, but
Yeah.
Texas just looks terrible in big games right now. Like worse than Clemson. Like worse than Clemson. And I think Clemson, again, I go with Dabo. Sark has been given all this stuff. They get Lamborghinis for all the recruits to ride in. They get all this money. You got Matthew McConaughey. And it just seems like whenever there's a big matchup, so far, it's just like fall asleep. And I don't know if I trust it going the full distance. If they win one game, okay, but I don't see them even making a push for everything. Um, I think if you're smart, maybe you just play Arch Manning and say, see what happens, but I know they won't. But for me, I'm going to say Texas loses this game. I'm going to say Clemson wins. I'm going to go 31-21 Clemson.
Mm. All right. And then we end in the day with what I think will be the most exciting game of the first round, Tennessee at Ohio State.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
I'm gonna
scarlet
let
out.
you I'm gonna let you lead off with this one.
Yeah,
Being the
man.
resident Ohio
Yeah,
State fan here, I got my
yeah,
thoughts on the game, but I'd like to hear them
yeah.
from the Buckeye fan first.
I got three thoughts. And we're gonna start here. Number one, the Tennessee fans that think they're they're just crazy to think that the cold and snow is not going to affect them. I know you're in Tennessee, but you're not in the freaking Ohio wind and nasty rain that falls and snow. It's another level unless you're from here. So I think that's going to play a big factor in this game. Um, According to Chip Kelly, he understands that he messed up the game plan, which I think he's just covering his butt. But I think in general, okay, then change it. And you say you are. And so I think the big key is if the run game's not working, will Ohio State just say, screw it, we're gonna throw the ball 80 times? Because at the end of the day, Josh, we've talked about this all the time. It does not matter how you win at this point. You don't have to do style points anymore. You don't have to look all fancy and run the ball. You're not playing for committee. You're just winning to go to the next game. It's a battle. Next battle after that, and so on. So I think what happens in the Chip Kelly's and will Ryan Day stay away from it, let Chip Kelly do what he does best, and that's call plays that are you're going to create chaos. And then also like that offensive line, man. I'm an Ohio State fan. I've been critical at times of the offensive line. I've been praising the offensive line. That Michigan game worried me. Not because I think Tennessee has a better defensive line. I still think Michigan has a better defensive line, but I think their edge guys are really good. And then, of course, they have the SEC fat big dudes in the middle, that are 340 pounds that just clog lanes. I'm interested to see what they do at center. I'm interested to see what they do at guard. And I think it all comes down to Will Howard. And we've said this on the show from the beginning of the year. But we don't have any issues with this defense. We both can sit here and say, like, this defense is going to play well. They might, have a few bends, but they're probably going to keep Tennessee, I'm guessing, between 14 and 21 points is what I'm guessing. Because I think Amaliava, Nico does not do well under pressure, and lately Ohio State's been doubling up pressure. They're going to have to run the ball a lot. But I just think that Ohio State's only, I believe the way that they lose this game is just by making the stupid mistakes they made in the Michigan game. But again, I think Ohio State has more talent. I think they're deeper. I think they're able to make these big time plays. It's now up to Ryan Day to finally show up and be the coach that we remember him from 2020 and 2021, and 2019. Um, and I think we do. I think he is there. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I am fascinated to see how this defense plays. I think there's a lot of mad dudes, yeah, Josh. I really do. I think there's a lot of mad players out there. A lot of people think that the team would quit. From what I heard and what I can tell from people that I know that are in Columbus, they say the vibe's really good. People think that we're going to boo Tennessee. That's not going to happen. Not Tennessee. Sorry, they're going to boo Ohio State. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to support the team, and I think it's going to be a win. And I'm going to go. My prediction is going to be. I'm going to go 34-17 Ohio State. I think the defense plays very solid. I think the offense starts clicking and makes this team a very, very scary team if you're Oregon. If Ohio State has the defense clicking and that offense is clicking, if they win this game by a good margin, I think Oregon's in for a real trouble.
Yeah, Ohio State's definitely got potentially the hardest path to this national championship game, the way that the bracket just got drawn up.
Yeah.
But I agree with a lot of what you said. I think also that Tennessee stylistically is very similar to Michigan and possibly does it even better. The rush defense is sixth in the country in yards per carry allowed and eighth in rush yards per game allowed. But they don't have like that top level talent at defensive tackle like Mason Graham at Michigan. They got some all SEC guys on the edge though, uh, and they are a really strong defensive unit as a whole. Where they've been beaten, I guess you could say, is in the secondary. Carson Beck had the best game against them. That they uh, pretty much threw it at will in that one, and I don't know if Will Howard has exactly got the skill set that Carson Beck has to be able to throw it downfield like that, especially with the elements like you were saying that could be working against them. So I wonder if it comes down to it, if Ohio State's going to be able to run the ball effectively in this one. They couldn't do it against Michigan, and if Chip Kelly's going to make a some different, I guess, plans for this game plan as far as calling the plays of how much or how effective it's going to be with the pass. Because we've seen Will Howard like have some good games this year.
Oh yeah.
It hasn't necessarily been throwing deep downfield, but I think if Ohio State's going to win this game, you're going to have to get it to those guys on the outside. You're going to have to go out and throw it to Jeremiah Smith more. You're going to have to throw it to Emeka Egbuka more. I don't think that uh, going up the middle with Judkins and Travion or even like sweeping it to the outside with them is really going to be a path to success in this one.
Yeah.
As far as Tennessee's offense goes, similar to Michigan's, they love running the football. Dylan Sampson led the SEC in rushing yards. Nico, while he's been impressive at times, he's also
He
been
looks
inconsistent
rough.
at times. The offense has also been pretty slow as a unit at times. They've been had a lot of low scoring first halves, but they've been able to turn it up in the second half a lot of times too. So yeah, this is the game. Like I said, I think it's going to be the most exciting first round matchup. But it's going to come down to is Ohio State going to change up the game plan uh,
Yeah.
as opposed to the way that they played Michigan? Because I think if they play Tennessee the same way they play Michigan, it's going to go Tennessee's way.
Yeah.
And then X factor, honestly, is quarterbacks. Honestly,
Yeah.
Will Howard and Nico. I would take Will Howard 100 times over Nico Imaliava. Uh, so for that reason, and I haven't even mentioned anything about Ohio State's defense, but that's basically because it kind of goes without saying.
Yeah, it
It's one of
speaks
the
for
best ones
itself.
in the country. Speaks for itself. Wasn't the issue in that Michigan game by any means. So yeah, if it's going to come down to the quarterback, I'm going to go with the one that's more experienced than Will Howard, the one that has played better, I guess, in the with the exception of the Michigan game, some of the bigger moments for Ohio State this year.
Yeah.
Uh, so a slight edge, similar to the way I think the Penn State game could shake out. I think Ohio State's 7.5 point favorites right now. I think
Yeah.
Tennessee points checks out here, but Ohio State's going to win. Uh, Give me Ohio State 26-21.
Love it. I love it.
And if we'll see what happens these first round games. The second round of quarterfinals are going to be taking place New Year's week, so these teams will have about
Oh,
10
my
days
favorite.
to regroup and move on to the next round. But yeah, we're in the 12-team playoff era, Ben. We'll see
Weird.
what's going on. Yeah, it is weird to say the or never to say less. But sticking in the football field though, to no surprise, the Browns lost Sunday to
They
the Chiefs,
suck, dude.
21 to 7.
They suck.
They do suck, but they could suck even more with the news that came out today that Jameis Winston is not going to play anymore. And with
This is about to
146
be
yards,
so
zero
ugly, dude.
touchdowns, and three picks on Sunday, maybe you would rather him
I,
not.
I don't know. I
The
don't know,
season's already
man.
gone anyways, though, so I don't know if they just want to see what they got in DTR, what the plan for the quarterback room is
They
going
already
forward.
said that they're bringing back Watson, so what does it matter anymore?
Yeah, it sounds like Watson,
Like
Stefanski, and Barry will all be back.
like why? Just uh I
Throwing
John,
DTR out to the Wolves with
I
as hard of a
just
schedule as we got to end the season. Maybe we are securing the
Josh,
first overall pick, Ben.
I I'm always speechless with the Browns lately. And look, Nick Chubb getting hurt is just like an icing on top of a terrible cake. Like it's just like this poor guy. Like this is also why I believe that sorry, the Browns will draft a running back. I 100% agree that they're probably going to draft a running back in the second or third round. It's a very deep running back class. You could get probably Judkins or Henderson probably in the late second, early third.
Ashton Jeanty,
Like Ashton Jeanty as well. So like I
Dylan
think
Sampson.
yeah, I think I to be honest, I think I love Nick Chubb and I agree. I would love to see him here for the rest of his career. Maybe you sign him to like a 2-year deal. Um, but you just can't trust him right now to be healthy, and that's the problem. And yeah, so look, Jerry Judy has been a bright spot that I don't think any of us saw coming, and I'm really excited about him and his future. Njoku, obviously, Garrett has been dealing with injuries. He got freaking punched in the face or whatever happened, and and he's still got almost a dozen sacks, and so it's for me, it's just this team has so many pieces, and the problem is they don't have someone that can put the pieces together at least correctly. Um, I'm upset that they're saying that Watson's going to be that starting quarterback. I don't understand why you would do that, other than you're just trying to save the money and just survive. But um, look, I say if there's someone you really like in the free agency or whatever, take the shot. But yeah, man, it sucks. It really does.
Yeah, this just kind of sounds like they're checking to see what they got in DTR. I don't know if they end up deciding to trade one of these guys in the offseason or if they just want to get some
Yeah.
tape or if it's mostly just to secure that they got the first overall pick. But I don't really know what you'd want to do with that first overall pick because neither of us have been really high on any of the quarterbacks. Anyways,
No,
like you said, that
no.
running back class is loaded and it's not who I would want to spend the first overall pick on, but definitely some late first, early seconds. Would like to see what can happen there.
Yeah, it is wild. It truly is wild.
Still competing for that first overall pick is New England, the Jets,
The Bears are
Cleveland,
atrocious.
Jags, Titans, the Raiders, the Giants, the Bears, Panthers. Yeah, the Bears I think started the season off 4-2 and now they're 4-10.
It's just bad.
Yeah,
That's a bad run organization, man.
Vegas and the Giants are 2-12. Uh, both of those guys could be gunning for quarterbacks, uh, as well as us. We don't really know what Cleveland's really ever thinking, but I doubt that New England is going to take a quarterback. Just we've talked about their quarterback situation. I don't think the Jags will. Tennessee might not either. They might. We'll see how much longer they ride with Will Levis. Carolina, we'll see how much longer they want to ride with Bryce Young, and the Bears just got Caleb Williams, so
Yeah.
we'll see if there's a quarterback they like. But at least right now, outside of Shadura, I don't really like any of them.
No, I agree with you. Uh, it's just, ugh, just hurts, Josh. It's a painful
You know what
hurt.
else I don't like, Ben?
What?
How cheap the Cleveland Indians slash Guardians ownership is.
Oh, what do you mean? Well, yeah, as we're switching from football to baseball, what do you mean, Josh? What happened that I as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh, Josh is throwing something against the wall.
Well, as it turns out, we still have not really used a lot of our extra money and revenue that we've made to get any players. We have traded Andres Jimenez away, though, which that guy
Gold
was
Glove
on a seven
specialist.
Gold Glove specialist for sure, but he also was an offensive liability. He was on a 7-year, $100 million deal that was very backloaded. He was going to be getting $23 million the next couple seasons, which I
Oof.
wasn't crazy about. So on one hand, it's not so bad that we dumped that contract off and we're able to get uh, what looks like a useful starting pitcher from so it was with Toronto. Jimenez ended up going to Toronto, and then we ended up also getting Pittsburgh involved. And we got Ortiz, who in like 130 innings had a 3.30 ERA.
Yeah.
So like to see a solid, capable starting pitcher that we were able to flip. But there's also still talk about Josh Naylor being the next to go. And as we continue to twiddle our thumbs, I'm also seeing that the Yankees went
Yeah,
out
I
and got
just
one of
saw
the other
that.
big
Yeah.
names,
I was about to
Cody
say that. Yeah.
Bellinger.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Cody
Yeah.
Bellinger from the Cubs to the Yanks now. So the Yanks are using some of
The
that
Cubs, the
$705
Cubs
million
is like
dollars they didn't have to
they
spend.
spend money, but then they like do these weird things where they just dump money, and it's Cubs are weird.
Yeah,
They
the
do just
Cubs is
weird
the
things.
Cubs is one I've never understood. Like
They'll
they're like,
spend
okay,
money to get guys, but then they'll like not spend money other
we're gonna
places.
trade Chris Bryant because we don't want to pay him, but then we're gonna go out and get Dansby Swanson because we want to pay him.
Or we'll get Raihei Suzuki and pay him, 70 million over 3 years. It's like, what are you doing?
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I feel with you with him, with even as because for me, like it was the same with Jonathan India. Like the one liability about Jonathan India was he had one good year, he won Rookie of the Year, and then his hitting has not come back. He's been spotty at times, but you know, it's always tough, man, when you lose a guy who's been there for a while. He's kind of become a fun part of your team, and but look, we both have been Reds and Guardians fans our whole life, and we both can say that neither of our organizations know how to use money. Pretty sure money is foreign to them. They just see it as like a paper that they can stuff in their pocket. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting world that we're living in right now with baseball and everything going on.
Yeah. And on one hand, yeah, like I said, like we free up infield spot. I know that they're excited about Travis Bazzana coming up, and they're hoping that Ryan Rocchio can build on the momentum from the playoffs. So you
Yeah,
assume the infield's set, but with prospects, it's almost like never, never solid. You can never really tell.
yeah,
And then the other thing is like, yeah, I know we free up money with Trade Jimenez, but I know we're not going to use it to go out and get anybody that's going to be
yeah.
productive for us. It's all about Dolan pocketing more money for himself. So
What a guy! What a guy!
yeah, what a stand-up guy that Paul Dolan is. But yeah, still a couple names out there. Speaking of like the Cubs, yeah, they went out and got Kyle Tucker. So that's a
Again,
name
just weird moves.
that's one of those moves. Yes, so they went out and got Kyle Tucker. Alex Bregman is still available, and he's looking for probably way more money than anybody's going
Oh,
to
a
give him.
lot of
Pete
money, dude.
Alonso is still available in this market too. So we'll be seeing. And then the Yankees also made the trade for Devin Williams
Yeah.
from the Brewers, and they sent Nestor Cortez over there.
Do you ever wonder, Josh, how like depressing it is for a guy who loves a beard and then has to go to the Yankees and like shave it all off and like change his look?
Yeah,
Like it's gotta be so depressing. Like you focus so much on a beard and they're like, hey, razor time.
yeah, that was probably the wildest transformation was Johnny Damon going over there from
Oh my
Boston.
goodness, he looked like another human.
Long hair, long beard, caveman looking guy. It's yeah, goes over to New York and
Do you
has
think
to get
there's
rid of it
guys
all.
that won't sign with the Yankees because of that? Do you think there's guys out there that
Oh,
wouldn't?
there's definitely guys that won't go over there because of that. I've never
For
heard
sure.
anybody voice that out, but
Oh,
there's
there
some
has to
over
be.
there.
Like if you've had a beard your whole life and then all of a sudden it's like you got to shave it, you'd be like, no, dude. First off, why? You know,
But we're gonna give you $500 million, Ben.
you
Just shave
know,
the beard.
you're right. You're right. I'll look like a child. Look like a child.
Yeah. Of course, if someone else is giving me $500 million to not shave my beard, then I'd obviously
Oh,
do that
absolutely.
too. But
Absolutely.
yeah, not a whole lot of other things I think we're missing. That was everything that
Yeah,
I
I
wanted
think
to cover
so.
today, at
Yeah, I
least.
think so. Yeah. And then obviously there's basketball. We'll be covering more basketball after the New Year's. So after the New Year's, we'll be covering more basketball. We'll start switching our coverage. As you guys know on this with this show. We have like these like main topics of the season. So once basketball hits, and that's really the only sport going on, those are going to be our main talking points for the year. And then when baseball turns around, and then when football's back. So you know how
Yeah.
it is around here. Sorry, soccer. We just why, and boxing and all that fun stuff. We did hear that McGregor versus Logan Paul might be happening, which why? It's just a money grab at this point. But it's going to be interesting. All this is going to be interesting. I'm excited to see, what's happening with this college football playoff. It's going to be entertaining either way. I'm excited. Josh, any other final thoughts for these lovely people?
Not in my head. No, just I guess we'll close it off with Merry Christmas once again. And we'll
Yeah,
see you guys one more time just before
yeah,
the new
just
year
before
rolls
Christmas.
around.
Yeah, and we'll see. We'll also, I think we might have an episode out right before Christmas. It might come out like either right after Christmas or right before. Anyways, we're gonna say Merry Christmas now
Yeah,
because
we're
it's
trying to
just
figure out
easier
how to
that way.
navigate the holidays with
We're just gonna
our
say
schedules,
Merry
but
Christmas. No, Merry Christmas from Josh and I. We do appreciate you guys, and hopefully you get to spend time with family, watch football. There's NFL games on Christmas now, which I think is hilarious, and I love it because that means the NBA gets worse, and I love it so much, and all the ratings go down. But no, Merry Christmas. Seriously, Merry Christmas from us. Also a Happy New Year. Obviously, we'll have one out before the new year, but we just want to say Merry Christmas. Spend it with your friends and family. If you've loved listening to the episodes on YouTube, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, that notification bell. Let us know what you think. Again, comment below. What are your traditions for Christmas? We'd love to read about it and hear about where you're from and what's different than what we've said. And then also, if you love listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please let us know and favorite and star it and share it and save it. All that fun stuff. It really helps us out as well. And once again, until next time, we'll see ya.